You will learn by the end of the day, you should learn what bioinformatics actually means. If you Google a bioinformatics, you're going to get millions and millions of records in Google, which means it's an important term to know. And this is a definition that I have come up with, and this is a definition I hope will make sense to everyone. And we're all talking about big data, big data, big data. So what I'm going to talk to you about, what are the challenges we're facing today because of the big data? And also, where is all this big data actually coming from? That Ilya was talking to you about, all different research projects that we can do, and how can we look at diseases. So I'm going to introduce you to all the, where the data is actually coming from, and what it means, and how we can actually use. So today we're just going to get introduced to the big data, where all this data is coming from. And because of all of this big data, we have given birth to a whole new field of genomics, right? So that is what we're going to be focusing on today. So now, before we define what bioinformatics is, I want to talk to you about what is informatics. Study of how information is collected, stored, manipulated, classified, organized, retrieved, visualized. It's all too complex, right? So, and how does it differ from information technology, IT, right? We all hear about IT experts. So how does informatics actually differ from information technology, information science, computer science? So all of them are all pretty much belong to the same family, right? So it's all about data and how you collect data. What kind of data you collect is immaterial, right? So you go shopping and all your, the shoppers and everything, they're collecting data as well. So pretty much we're breathing in and breathing out data today, right? So for example, we are in the middle of a pandemic, right? COVID-19. How many publications do you think that we have actually had on COVID-19 in the last 6 months? Any guesses? How many published papers are out there? That's data, right? So what do you all think? How many papers do you think we have right now on COVID-19 in the last 6 months since we started getting into this pandemic? Any guesses? 1,000, 30? It's actually 30,000. So you can see the entire world is working. So that's data, right? So that's what Ilya was talking about, research. How do you review literature? So there are like 30,000 publications. So you can see every second we are generating data. Now, importance to everyday life. Can we live without informatics today, right? My personal view is we cannot. Everything is about data. Anything you do is data. So I don't think we can live without informatics today, right? Absolutely not. So every day we are touched, influenced by informatics. So I'm sure that you all have a Facebook account, a Twitter account. These are all one of the most famous. In fact, this was actually created by a high school student. So we are all looking at data all over the place, right? So there is scientific data as well coming out of all of this. Now, so we are actually living in a data-centric world. And we are also, we have lots of devices, acquisition devices to collect this data. And every single one of us is actually creating content, creating data. And the biggest challenge is how can we actually meaningfully use this data to get information from this, get the information, and how do we actually convert this to meaningful knowledge? And how can we use this data to use as key to advances in sciences in different disciplines? How are we going to use this data, right? So of course, we are going to be focused on biological data, right? So no escape now. All of us need to learn how to deal with data. And data keeps coming, and all of these different tools, and there's lots of different disciplines that we need all of you to collect and disseminate and actually analyze this data. So the whole goal is for us to take this data, get relevant information from it, and transform that information to knowledge. From knowledge, then we can actually see how best to use the data and go to the next step, right? Now, you all would have actually realized a lot of different omics, right? So there are different types of omics that's there. And I'm just going to put bioinformatics in the perspective in this whole world of informatics. So American Medical Informatics Association has actually come up with all of these different omics. And we need all of these omics. We need a collaboration between data from all of these different omics. And we have, each one is trying to give us different levels, right? So we have biomedical informatics, we have health informatics, we have imaging informatics, we have clinical informatics, we have public health informatics. So each one is dealing with different aspects, right? So imaging is based on, it's tissues and organs, and then individual patients is clinical informatics because you gather data from patients. Then you have population society, and then which is public health, which is all of us are doing, part of the public health informatics. So, but what we are going to focus on is just one small iota of this whole world of informatics, which is bioinformatics, which deals with molecular processes, proteins, DNA, RNA, and all of those things, right? So that's what we're going to focus on. Now, what is bioinformatics, right? Each one of us can come up with a definition. This is like a 50-year-old definition. It is pretty much information. You have a mouse and you apply it to biology. And so you just bioinformatics. It's about computer and mouse. This was a traditional definition that was used about 20 years ago, right? But now National Institutes of Health has come up with a definition, which is all very, very wordy, right? At the end of the day, it's about data, how you acquire the data, how you store this data, how you organize, archive, analyze, and visualize. This is just too complicated for me, right? This is just a big, if you were to write an exam to memorize such a big definition of bioinformatics is just a lot. But I'm going to, in the next several slides, we are going to come up with what actually is bioinformatics, and this will tie to everything Ilya was talking about, the whole proteomics and all the different omics terms, right? So this is biological data. How do you do experimentation in the computer? That's why this is called genomics, virtual genomics, which means we are doing all the experimentations within a computer, right? So computer calculations and what comes out of all of these things.